Hi folks, John Dunn here, RPG freelancer, publisher behind Melior Via. I am up here at Immortals Inc. tonight with Mikey.
What is going on, John? I don't know if you noticed yet, but I have a new chair.
I'm very happy for you. That lack of tape on the arms
Dude.
is just an impressive improvement. You can see how successful the streaming is going here, folks. The money's just rolling in. We don't need tape on the arms anymore.
And you know what? I could just lift my arms up. I'm not glued to this thing anymore. I could finally get up and leave.
Lap of luxury. Thank you for your viewership. I've been saying for an awful lot of years that Carlos needs to get more superhero-themed games in here.
What else is new?
Yeah. And since he actually brought one in, I thought we really better get on the ball and talk about it right away.
You got him to get a superhero game?
Well, I don't know if it's my influence or not, but yeah. So Sentinel Comics, the core rule book for the role-playing game, just came in. We've got this and I think a couple other products for the line as well, including a starter set there on the shelf over in the role-playing section. And I thought, hey, we should talk about this.
Yeah, we should, because I'm a big Marvel fan myself.
Are you a comics guy
yeah,
too?
I read Marvel comics,
Okay.
the older ones when I was a kid.
Have you ever heard of Sentinel Comics?
No, I've actually never heard of Sentinel Comics.
So there's a reason for that, and it's because Sentinel Comics is entirely fictional.
Okay.
It's a comic company that creators of Sentinels in the Multiverse made up when they published that game. Sentinels in the Multiverse is a really well-established card game. You're probably already familiar with it if you're interested in this at all. It has a neat backstory, a lot of setting, and a lot of fictional issues of the comic books that they created and referenced throughout that game. This role-playing game uses that same setting. So if you're already familiar with the card game, there's a lot to love in this. If you're not familiar with the card game, there's still a lot to love here. This is a really slick setting and a solid rule system.
Yeah, what is it about if you were to explain in layman's terms?
So if you're familiar with the different ages of comics, the Silver Age was stuff that typically came out in the 60s into the start of the Bronze Age, basically in the late 70s, early 80s. And that era is... if you ever watch Batman Brave and the Bold, that's kind of a song, really just a dedicated work that focuses on the Silver Age, where you've got a little bit of schlock, a little bit of camp, and just characters that are everything's black and white, and the good guys are good because they want to do the right thing, and the bad guys are bad because they're either malicious or they're just really greedy and evil.
Yeah.
And that kind of campy schlock is what this setting is designed for. You don't have to play that style, but that's really the inherent nature of Sentinel Comics. So this was designed and developed by Dave Chalker, Christopher Bedell, Cam Banks, and Felipe Antoine Menard. Apologies if I mangled any of your names. Dave, Cam, and Felipe all worked on Marvel Heroic from Margaret Weis Productions. That was a really cool Cortex-ish system game that was out a few years ago. That's been out of print for a while now. Christopher Bedell was the creator of Sentinels in the Multiverse, or at least one of the creators. This game was funded on Kickstarter in 2019 and came out in 2021. Like I mentioned, we do have the starter kit for it and some support materials available as well, but we're just going to talk about the core rulebook today. So playing this game starts out with a system and character sheet overview, and there's a bonus system that's kind of tied into your character's role-playing motivations. And the notes on what your character wants to do, their motivations, are really what drives all of your adventures forward. So this is really a very character-focused system, right? So yes, there will be a plot to any adventure, but it's going to revolve around who the characters are and the kinds of things that the characters want to do, their goals, their motivations. They did a great job of theming this design because they said, hey, every game session that you have is basically an issue of a comic book. And when you have a scene, every action that they take in that scene is going to be basically one panel or maybe a couple of panels, depending on how it might have been drawn out of that comic book. So
that's cool.
Yeah, so that's how you measure time in the adventure and how you measure your story progression.
Do you actually illustrate that, or is it
mean, if you happen to be incredibly talented.
What if you have an incredibly talented artist at your session?
I mean, if you do,
speed artist,
you're really lucky, right? First off. But if I were to try and draw anything that would be, identifiable as a superhero, we need to have 3-week game sessions.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Yeah,
I'm gonna need YouTube videos. So
there you go. Yeah. One thing that I thought was really neat is that your character's attributes are directly associated with their health. They're either their abilities and their attributes. And as they get injured over the course of an adventure, what those dice and what those special abilities they have can change. And similarly, as the scene develops and different trigger points and the tension raises over the course of a scene, it can also cause those same things to change. And they call this the gyro system. So at the start of a scene or a healthy character, they qualify as green. And then as things start to fall apart or they get injured or the tension rises, it goes to yellow. And then if they get really badly injured, or if you're at the climactic point of the scene where the outcome's about to be decided, then you're at red. So that's GYR of gyro. And then the last one, in either the scene ends or the character gets knocked unconscious, you're out. So
out.
Gyro. Yeah.
Oh, you're dead, basically.
Well, and that's actually kind of neat, the way they handled that, because you're not necessarily dead. You're just out of the encounter. So you might have a montage sequence later where the character gets healed quickly and is suddenly fine.
Oh, that's cool.
Or you might go and get healing, or you might decide, you know what? That seems like a good natural conclusion to my hero's story. So yeah, he really is dead. But that's up to the players collectively to decide. I thought that was a neat way of handling that. Characters have powers, qualities, and abilities. Powers are basically your superhuman abilities. Qualities are learned skills. And abilities are kind of like feats. They're special tricks you can do. When they go to do something, they're going to take an action. And I think these correspond to the card game. They had neat iconography for them that looked like card game iconography. I haven't really played the card game. I know it's really cool. I've heard a lot of great things about it, but I haven't gotten to it yet. Those actions are attack, defend, overcome, hinder, boost, and recover. And I did mention that both scenes and characters have gyro standings, and whichever is in the worst is the one that applies to everything, the scene and the character. When you go to take an action, you're going to roll 3 dice. It's going to be based on a power that you're using, a quality that's relevant, and the status that you have. And you roll the 3, and by default, you take the middle value of the 2. So if you have 3 dice and they all happen to be 6s, and you roll a 2, a 4, and a 6, the 4 is the value you take. But between powers and qualities, and even situations, it can change which of those dice you're using. You might sometimes use just the lowest, you might take the highest, or you might take some combination of them. Opponents fall into 3 categories: villains, which are at about a comparable power level to player characters; lieutenants, who are much less powerful but still a real threat; and minions, who get taken out pretty quickly.
Yeah, minions usually just...
Yeah, they're pretty much there for the heroes to beat up on and
just
walk
practice.
through. Yeah.
It's sad.
Yeah. Non-combat encounters, like I mentioned the montage as just kind of, you have that cool training sequence or that research sequence, or basically that point where the storyline progresses quickly, but you don't want to take the time to delve into all the details. And then you can also have social encounters where 2 characters are interacting in a way that develops both of their stories meaningfully.
What if I want like a Captain America hit in the bag type
Oh, absolutely.
sequence?
I mean, that might be a perfect montage element.
Yeah.
But if somebody's coming by and talking to you while you're doing that could
like, yo,
be a social
leave me alone,
encounter.
dude.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Creating heroes, they do have a random system and a constructed system. I saw some people complaining that they didn't like you had to use the random system. You don't. There is a constructed way of doing it. There's a couple of different constructed ways of doing it, and they kind of do give you the caveat, look, you can make yourself really overpowered here. There's no real reason to do that. It's not an I win button. This is a storytelling game, right?
Yeah, I mean, you play Skyrim with all the mods, you know. Come on.
Exactly. When you go through that sequence, you pick a background or roll a background, and that provides qualities and a principle. And then you've got a power source that's going to dictate your powers, an archetype that's going to give you your abilities, powers, and qualities, and also another principle. Principles are really those role-playing elements that I mentioned at the start of this. And then a personality, which is going to give you a status and some more abilities. And then after you've determined those, then you pick your red abilities. Those are the abilities that you can use when things get real ugly for you, right? I mentioned GYR, the ones that come into play when you're at that R level. a retcon, which is basically, oh, look, I didn't like this part of character creation. I'm going to go back and change that. Familiar with retcon?
No.
Retcon is short for retroactive continuity. A lot of times when different writers write things about a superhero, you'll come up with things that just don't work together. So to fix that, they'll retcon it. They'll retroactively change what happened in those past stories.
Okay, so it's kind of like improvising.
Kinda, yeah. It's kind of fixing the character's history. Then health and just finishing touches, which are just minor things. Characters don't really need to advance a lot because they're starting out as competent superheroes. But one thing that I really liked about that is, remember I mentioned that every game session is an issue? When you've gone through a few issues, you compile those together into a collection. And as characters get issues and collections, when they're doing something in an adventure, they can say, hey, this is just like this thing I did in this past issue or this past collection. And they can use that to get a situational bonus.
That'd be cool if they had like an AI system built into this online to where there's like an extension to where it would generate like the actual panels for you. Like as you
that
went
would be
along.
amazing.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then it'd save it for you.
After creating heroes, there's a moderating the game section, which is basically just your GM section, game mastering advice, mechanics, and situational rules. There's a bullpen section, which is meant to be like, the Marvel bullpen editors talking things around, bouncing around ideas. And this basically covers your adventure design concepts. And then there are a couple of sample adventures in a section that they call the adventure issues. One of those very explicitly uses the sample PCs that are introduced later in the book. Another one is more freeform and capable of using PCs of your creation as well. There's an archive section that includes, like I said, some sample PCs as well as some NPCs. And then there's some appendices with an index, glossary, and character sheets. This is full color hardcover. It's about 440 pages, $60. A lot of really cool art, nicely color-coded spine here so you can see the different sections of the book. Really just captures that Silver Age comics feel I felt
it does.
Throughout, both in terms of the artwork and the styling. If you're looking for a Supers game, and particularly if you're familiar with the Sentinels of the Multiverse card game, stop and give it a look. This could be just the thing your campaign needs, or your game group needs for its next fun campaign.
Immortalsinc.com. Don't forget to subscribe too. And yeah, I would actually probably try this just because of that comic, just the way it plays, like how it's panel to panel. It's really nice.
Solid system. Till next time, folks. Good gaming.
Peace.